moment, we want to talk about functions in Microsoft Office Excel. Microsoft Office Excel has lots of functions in which you can automate your table. You can do a lot of things just as we have them on your calculator, or you have them in your four-figure table and the rest of them. To insert functions in Microsoft Office Excel, we have to make use of a formula tab, and under formula tab we have the function library group. Here you have your insert function, auto sum, recently used. You have functions that has to do with finances, you have them down. You have functions that have to do with logical reasoning. You have functions that have to do with text, functions that talk about date and time, those ones that have to do with lookup and references for mathematics and trig. Then you have more functions, statistical functions, engineering, cube, information, compatibility, web. We have them like that. And to insert any function, you can make use of the wizard. You click and then you have your wizard. You insert your function and you click on OK. Computer will work it out for you. This moment we want to talk about logical function. Logical function is one of the ways through which you can automate your table. You can give conditions, or a condition, so to say. This is what you want to do. If A is correct, give us Q, and if Q is wrong, leave A like that, and so many other things. For this table, we want it to be automated, wherein here you have names of learners, you have their various subject performances in various subjects, you have the total, and in this remark we have it there that this particular student, Udo Emmanuel, passed. The remark is passed. For every other person is passed. That means everybody in this category passed the examination. Right? How do we come about automating all these? Let us see if we are going to have failed there. Let's reduce this to 0. Okay. You have the remark for Udo Emmanuel changing to failed. That means this table has been automated. How do we go about having something like this? So let us do this together. I've deleted all the remarks. Let me return this score. Let's make it 20. Let's make this okay. All right. Now, how do we start our logical function here? We have series of them, but here we want to talk about if function. If function is a conditional statement. If A is correct, or A is like this, what should be the next thing? To start with, usually you start with your equal sign. Now we have typed equal sign. Equal what? We want to use if function. So if, then you have your bracket open. If, so you can see immediately I typed if and the bracket, open bracket, we have suggestions. The first one is logical test. What is that logical test? What do we want to do? What do we want to achieve? We want to tell the computer that if any score is 150 or is 100 and above, such a person passed or failed, depending on what we want to say. but this table let us make use of 150. Now if what? If the total is equal to 150, that person has passed the examination. Now how do we interpret that? Where do we have our total for Udo Emmanuel? We have it in F5. So if F5, that is F5, right? If F5 does what? If F5 is greater than, now listen, if F5, our benchmark is 150. Therefore, if F5 is greater than 149, you can do it in two ways. If F is greater than 149, comma, what should happen? The computer should return passed. And for this, you have to quote your pass. Now you insert your double quotes. Then let us type our passed. Okay, double quote again. That is value if true. If our logical function is true, the value should be passed. Then the next one is value if false. You put your comma. So after the comma, what should happen if the value is not true? What should happen if this particular person, Udo Emmanuel, does not score up to 149? Then we want computer to return failed. We type our failed, so quotation mark, and now we close the bracket and press enter. What do we have? We have failed. Why? Because Udo Emmanuel did not meet up with our set target, which is greater than 149. Now let us run our function. Down, you highlight. When you highlight from the first one, you can go to home tab, click on fill, then you fill down. It will work. If you don't want to do that, click on the first one, click on this arrow where you have this angle, this particular point, drag it down. Computer will insert your function to you. So we have everything automated now. You have your passed, you have anybody scoring above 149, computer will return passed. You have it like this. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 people or learners passed out of 10 that we have here. So alternative 1. Then for alternative 2, you can also do this as, let us return it. Let us start again. Equal to if what? If F5 greater than or equal to, so 150 is the same thing as if it is greater than 149. But if you insert if greater than 150, 150 is not inclusive. Therefore, if 150 is inclusive, you have to use your equal to. If F5 greater than or equals to 150, insert your comma, then computer should return passed. Your quote, comma, then value if false should be failed. You quote, then you have your failed. Quote again and close your bracket, press enter. It's still the same thing, drag it down. Right, so the table has been automated, and let us try to do some manipulations. Okay, for Oladele Shegun, let's make this to be 70. So if we have it 70, so what happened to the remark? The remarks changed to passed. Let me undo. Before we have 125, and that's because of that, Oladele Shegun failed. The remark returned failed. But let's turn it to 70 again. 70, press enter. You have the whole thing automated, and Oladile now passed this examination. So let us do for Mustafa. For mathematics 20, this you have 65. All right, so we have 165, and the whole thing is automated. That is for logical functions. We use if here. We have other functions as well. Another logical function that we want to consider is the AND function. AND function can be found under the formula tab and under logical of with this functional library ribbon. So under logical you have AND. AND checks whether all arguments are true and returns true if all arguments are true. Now for this table, we want to check, or we want to automate it in such a way that if a student passes mathematics and English language, the computer should return true, and otherwise the computer should return false. How do we go about that? To have the AND function, you start with equals to, and you type your AND. Let's use small case. You type your AND, bracket opened, and what? Where do we have our mathematics? The mathematics for Udo Emmanuel is in C5. That is, for mathematics and English that we have in D5 should be above the pass mark. I want to take our pass mark to be 40. So to start with now, let's continue. AND equals to AND, bracket open, our C5. What should happen to C5? Should be greater than or equal to what? 40. Yes, that's the logical one. Then what is the logical 2? Logical 2 says that D5, which is the score of Udo Emmanuel in English language, that is D5. D5 also greater than or equal to 40. Let us have that. So you close the bracket and press enter. Computer returns false. Why? Because Udo Emmanuel failed mathematics and passed English language or English studies. So that is why false is returned here. Now let us drag it down. So we have it all over. Let us put in our border. Alright, we have the border. So for Udo Emmanuel, for pass in mathematics and English, so that means it is not true. It is true for Francis, and it is also true for Oladile Segun and Aderele or Lakunle. So we have for Oni Miriam, so it is false. That means Oni Miriam did not pass in one of the two subjects that we have issued here. So that is for AND function. For OR function, our OR function tells that either of the two arguments must be true. So once one of the arguments is true, then computer will return true. So let us try that. Still under formulas, our logical function, we have our OR, and that says checks whether any of the arguments are true and returns true or false. Return false only if all arguments are false. So that is the difference between AND and OR function. For AND function, the two arguments have to be true, but for OR function, either of the arguments is needed to be true. Now let us start. Equals to what? OR is our function. Equals to OR, bracket open, or what? Or the same thing, C5 for Udo Emmanuel, C5. All right, let us use capital letter so that we see it very well. Or bracket open C5. What's the logic there? Greater than or equal to 40, comma. All right, the second logic, you can have more than one argument, or yes, more than two arguments, so depending on the way you want it to be. For D5, which is for Udo Emmanuel in English language, so you have your D5. What should happen to D5? Greater than or equals to 40. So we want those two. You close your bracket and you press enter. So computer returns true for any of the two, then return false for the two to be greater than 40, which is correct. Now let's run this down. Let us run it down. Right. So it is true for everybody because all of them either passed in mathematics or English studies. So that is why it is true. Now let us try to change one. Let us change for Oni Miriam. Let us reduce the score in mathematics to 15 and let's see what happened. This is Oni Miriam. Okay, so what happened? So the argument returned false because Oni Miriam failed in both mathematics and English studies. Let me increase the font. Let's make it 12 so that we'll see it well. So we have false for Oni Miriam. Let's do that for Johnson Eunice as well. Let us have 21 here and let us have 24. So computer returns false for or function and also return false for hand. So that is about or function. Now we want to do this, that for both of them we want to see that computer should return pass or fail for a student who passed in both mathematics and English studies. That means we want to combine two functions. Now, how do we go about that? We want to combine the two functions, I mean the if function and the and function. That is, we want to make pass in mathematics and English studies compulsory. So if you pass in both English and mathematics, that means you passed. But if you fail any of the two, you fail. So fail in one is fail in all. We want to combine the two. We want to automate this table that computer should return pass for any student that passes the two and returns failed for any student that failed in one of the two. Now let us start. You start with your equals to. This is a logical function. If what? If mathematics for Udo Emmanuel. Now if C5 and D5 is greater than or are greater than 40 rather, then you pass. So we have and there, C5 and D5. So if we now introduce and, that is an embedded formula. If and what? C5 greater than or equals to 40, logic 1. The second one, D5, right, greater than or equals to 40. So we have two functions there. So you put your comma, right, you close the bracket rather. You close the bracket for the AND function. Then you come up with your comma. See, immediately we return back to our logical function for if. So if and C5 and D5 the 2 now greater than 40, what should happen? Computer should return passed. You have your quotation, so the quote, you want to have a passed, P-A-S-S-E-D, right, quote, comma. So value if false, quote again, you have failed if none of the arguments or one of the arguments now, as we have said it earlier, is not true. Your quotation and you close the bracket, press enter. Wow, we have it here now. Let us run it down. Very good. What do we have here? You have for Udo Umane failed. Why? Because he failed in mathematics, even though he passed English studies as we have it in this scenario. Let us try to change this to capital letter uppercase so that we'll see it well. You can click on your function, go back to formula bar and edit as desired. So you have your passed, then for failed, you have failed. Press enter. So you run it down. So what do we have? We have failed. We have passed. So for this, for Francis Moses, that means he passed both mathematics and English studies at above 40 or at 40 and above. So that is how you can combine this formula. We are combining, now we have combined if function and function. If and this, so that is how we have it here. Still on logical functions, we want to insert a function that will count the number of passed we have, and we want to insert another one here that will count the number of failed that we have among these learners. How do we go about that? We use the function count. Let us start. You start with your equals to, then count if. So it's like we are talking. Count if. Look at what we have. We have range. The range here is the starting point to the end point, wherein we have your J5 to J14. You can highlight. Don't forget, I've clicked in here and I highlight like this. So from J5 to J14, the next thing is you put your comma. And what will be the criteria? You want to know if computer returns passed there, how many of them passed. Then you quote your quotation. So you type your pass. Be careful, you have to type it the way it is. If not, computer will not return correct arguments. Then you close the bracket and press enter. So we have 6. That means 6 of them passed here. We can count because this the list here is not many. But think of a situation where you have like 2,000, 3,000 names to deal with. You can't be counting one after the other. So we have 1, but for this we can count. There are not many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's correct. Let us do that of failed. Equal to count is still the same function. Count if the range now from J5 to J14, you start your comma. What should be the criteria? Failed. That is now quote. Failed. Close, end of quote. The bracket close. Press enter. Right. We have 4 of them failed. The beauty of this is that if anything changes here, the whole thing will be automated. Let us look at this. Someone that failed. Udo Umane. Let us change mathematics to be 42 and let's see what happened. So failed, total pass increased to 7 from 6, and also total failed reduces to 3 because Udo Emmanuel eventually passed and the whole thing will be automated. So that is for count if. Okay,